You know, greatness, it doesn't come from strength. Greatness doesn't come from an extreme intelligence, and greatness certainly doesn't come from a no-quit attitude. It's weird. Greatness comes from weakness. It comes from that recognition and realization that we have limitations and we fail. But what do we put in place to combat that failure? That's what I want to talk about. Once we begin to realize how to combat conflict, how to combat adversity, we can begin to cultivate a mindset that's a formidable force whenever we're amidst chaos or adversity. Now, cultivation, I use that word specifically because cultivation brings me back to early American history, right? Where families were large, cultivating land, long hours, arduous work, where they had to do it to survive. Also, I was reading a book, and I was talking about this Hebrew term, shamar. And its definition is cultivation. But what I drew from it was another definition that was alluding to. It was the idea that you were drawing the potential out of something. So to cultivate, I want to draw that potential out. So that's what I'm here to do today. I'm here to talk to you and to do whatever I can to draw your true potential out. Each one of you has goals. You all have goals. But in order to meet those goals, you have to realize that potential in yourself. And it all starts with these cultivating principles. And the first one is, who are you? Before we can answer the question, like, what is your why? Before that can ever begin to happen, we need to understand who you are as an individual. What are your guiding principles? What are those principles that was handed down to you by your parents, by your aunt, your uncle, your mentor, your coach, your teacher, your friend, your neighbor? What are those guiding principles in your life? Before we can ever even imagine understanding our why, we have to know who you are. The second principle I want to talk about drives us to our why. What is your why? This is huge because we understand who we are. We're beginning to realize our guiding principles, our left-right boundaries when we talk about morality. But why can be one of two things, right? It can be personal or material. Material, I want to do this because I want the glory. I want to do this because I want the fame, I want the money, because it's cool right now for the time. Or it's personal. Take my life story for it. My entire life I wanted to be a SEAL. Entire life. Until high school. Until I was working more and more, I was involved with my church, speaking and working with the youth group. I thought my path was being altered into the ministry. So I dropped the Navy. Went to Gardner-Webb University to get a bachelor's in religious studies and psychology. But something happened when I was in college. 9/11, 2001 occurred. I'll never forget that day. I will never forget those images of the buildings exploding. I'll never forget the images and the video of the people jumping out of the towers just to survive a fire that they were inevitably going to die anyway. I had a cousin who worked for the Department of the Army, working in the Pentagon at the time. None of my family could reach her. She survived. But those images stayed with me. I knew right then and there I needed to regain my idea of being a SEAL, so I graduated and I enlisted in the Navy. In BUDS, in SEAL training, I was going through, it's a tough gig. So all those times where we have a boat on my head, I'm traveling, or I got a log, it's like scraping me because it's like feels like sandpaper. I kept thinking about those images of 9/11. That was my personal why. Don't have this material idea of I want to do this because of the glory, because as soon as crisis and adversity hits, guess what happens? Where does that why go? It evaporates, gone. But if it's personal, that'll drive you forward. No matter how many times you get knocked down, you can get picked up because I'm here for the right reasons. And our next principle is just a byproduct of that. Confidence. Confidence is a byproduct. And confidence can be shown in multiple avenues, but the main thing I want to talk about today is your internal dialogue in your head. When you're in crisis, when you're in adversity, what are you saying in between your ears? It has a direct influence on what you're doing. And perfect example, there's a sports psychologist, Dr. Samuel Marcora. out in London, or out in England, University of Kent. He did this exercise, or this experiment with a group of cyclists. He split them in half, and he says, all right, we're going to do a ride exertion. We're going to ride an exertion ride. You guys are going to ride as hard as you can for as long as you can. Once you go beyond or beneath this standard, then you're done. We're going to input the data, and you guys are going to go back. So one group, he said, do this, and they did it. And he said, all right, in 2 weeks, you guys are going to come back, train, come back, and we're going to retest. The other group says, all right, we're going to sit down. We're going to analyze your ride. We're going to have what's called a self-talk intervention. So they sat down, and they talked about, okay, when your body was really hurting, when you're like halfway through this ride, and your body, your calves are screaming, what were you telling to yourself? What were your thoughts? And they're like, okay, I understand that. So instead of thinking about that, how about we insert these positive thoughts? Like, for instance, you're feeling good. Okay, let's do that. All right. Towards the end of your ride, when you felt like you're a goner, your body's about to shut down, what were you thinking? So how about this? How about we not think about that, and we insert this idea of you can push through this. You're feeling good. You can push through this. Use this as a mantra in your training. For the next 2 weeks, once you go back home, train this with these principles. Come back, and we're going to retest. They said, okay. 2 weeks go by. They come back. They retest. What happens? And this is rhetorical. The group with the self-talk intervention rode 18% longer than the control. Absolutely amazing. Hutchinson, an author of Endure, talked about this experiment explicitly. And he said that they rode on average of 600 to 700 seconds longer, and their perceived level of exertion was longer into their ride. Nothing changed other than their self-talk intervention. So what you say matters. Marcus Aurelius, a second century philosopher, or second century Roman emperor, nicknamed the philosopher, said what you frequently hold in thought is what you're guiding it by. He's exactly right. He didn't need a 21st century experiment telling him that what you think about is going to determine or have an impact on your physical performance. So when you're in crisis, have confidence. Next one. The senses and controlling of them. Anybody listen to the flight recording of the Captain Sullenberger, Hudson River? Amazing, right? For those of you who haven't, I highly suggest it. His flight recording is absolutely incredible because he was absolutely calm. He's telling the airport, okay, listen, I'm not landing in LaGuardia, I'm landing in the Hudson. Okay, your airliner is full of people, ultimate crisis mode, and you're just relaxed. Blue Angels, when they fly inches off the wing, calm. Military fighter pilots, when they eject, calm. For those of you who are old enough, late 90s, Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, calm. Any finals, any game, calm, because he had to be. He was required to be because his team needed him to be. But he was calm in chaos because he had all this. He knew who he was. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was confident in his ability, the most confident, and he controlled his emotions so he was able to be efficient operating. Marcus Aurelius also says the nearer a man to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. He is absolutely correct. And the last one. This is simply the tip of the iceberg. This is your response to any crisis, to any conflict. You all have goals. You all want to achieve something. You have to go through conflict to get there. And this is where everyone sees it. But know that you can achieve anything. You are capable of so much more than you realize. But your base layers have to be there. So when you're in a situation, you're in conflict, you're in adversity, you're trying something to get knocked down, stand up. Trying something else to get knocked down, stand up. When you're in the midst of absolute pressure and you're feeling it constantly, rather than feeling that pressure, I want you to apply it and succeed. Thank you.